Hello, British literature students. It's the fourth week of the spring 2018 semester. And this week we're going to look at Mary Wollstonecraft again, only this time it's not just a short blurb about the French Revolution. We're going to look at her iconic work, Vindication of the Rights of Woman. Mary Wollstonecraft is one of the first ever feminist writers. Very unusual for a woman to write speaking up for women's rights when Vindication was published in the late 1700s. However, she's only asking that women get the same education that men get. She's still not asking that women get jobs. She's still not asking women get the right to vote, anything like that. But women at the time, as you're going to find as you read this, women were being educated on how to become or how to attract a husband. Not necessarily be a good wife, although she did learn how to cook a little, sew a little, clean a little, on and on. But she was not taught to do anything other than be charming, be childlike, so that the men will, want to take care of them and things of that nature. And they were taught to have something called accomplishments, which basically meant she could sing a little, write a little, paint a little, but she wasn't supposed to be an expert at any of those things. So we will be looking at Rights of Woman, where she makes the argument that in order for a woman to be a good wife and mother, she must have the same education that men have in order to understand why she needs to be faithful to her husband, in order to understand why she needs to take care of the kids, and so on. Now, also bear in mind that this Vindication of the Rights of Woman was geared towards the upper social class women and the higher middle class women. Lower class women still had to be shop girls, still had to be maids, still had to do all the other jobs that were open to women at the time. But Wollstonecraft wasn't writing for them. She was writing for the upper class women, because she herself was an upper class woman who ended up marrying a guy by the name of Godwin, who was at the time a big celebrity himself and in the world of philosophy. In fact, some of the writers we're going to read next week, like Shelley and Byron, actually admired Godwin. And Mary Wollstonecraft's daughter, whose name was also Mary, ended up marrying Percy Shelley to become Mary Shelley. And the name Mary Shelley sounds familiar to you. It's because she was Frankenstein's author, and I'll probably mention that again when we study Percy Shelley. Now, the other poets you're going to read, or the poets you're going to read, not the other poets, but the poets you're going to read, John Keats and William Blake. William Blake, I chose the two poems I chose for him because they're two sides of the same coin. They come out of a book, or a pair of books, Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience. William Blake was more of a drawer and an artist than he was a writer. He never expected that any of the poetry he wrote would still be read in the 21st century. However, we are reading it in the 21st century, and it's exciting because I've included in the slideshow. In fact, always look at the PowerPoint slideshows when you read these things to help you understand them better. But in the slideshow, you'll see the same poem that you're reading out of the textbook the way that Blake had published it, which was as part of drawings. And he drew these books by hand, and he wrote them out by hand. And if you were ever able to get a hold of a copy of one of William Blake's originals, it's worth a lot of money. They're very rare. There aren't very many of them left, but they do exist in places like museums and in private collections. So read those poems. Take a look at how, especially The Lamb and the Tiger. Take a look at how the Lamb and the Tiger are opposite sides of the same coin, where they both talk about being created by the same creator. And then you've got Keats. John Keats was obsessed with mortality. And by mortality, I mean the fact that we're all going to die someday. Which is ironic because he did die at a very young age. He never made it to his 30th birthday. He got tuberculosis while taking care of his sick brother, and he ended up dying from it himself. But in the 28 years or so that he lived, he created a lot of work and wrote a lot of poetry that we still read today. So he accomplished a great deal in a very short amount of time. So you're going to read Grecian Urn, which has the iconic ending lines about truth being beauty, beauty truth, that's all you need to know. And you'll see those lines. And of course, people have argued about what those lines mean since forever. And part of it is because Keats was never clear on it himself. And then you're going to read the oh my gosh, it's the story. It's a sonnet. You're going to read his sonnet about the what was taken the rocks that were taken, or the statues or the engravings that were taken off the Parthenon in Greece, and that is still in a museum in London, and Greece wants it back, and so that's causing all kinds of consternation between the two countries today. But it also is it was something that was in the museum, and so Keats was very much inspired by art, inspired by sculpture, particularly, and pottery, like in the Grecian art. So again, the themes of these are immortality, eternal life. Is eternal life such a good thing? Maybe, maybe not. None of us will ever know, because we'll all die probably within 80 years or so. Take a look at that when you read the Keats stuff. You're only going to be required to do 2 postings this week. Now, I say only, even though you've done 1 per week. Truthfully speaking, there are 3 different weeks that we're going to have to do 2 postings, because everything we're reading, I could not find a way to combine into 1 posting. This is one of those weeks. The next one won't be until, I think, week 7. So get those done. Take the quiz. You're going to have to read all 3 authors. Even though you don't have to write about both Keats and Blake, you still need to read all 3 authors to do well in the quiz. I'm glad to see you guys are keeping up with the quizzes. Finally, my last word is about the postings I graded. I have returned those. I have given you your grades. I have also, for most of you, if you needed it, given you an attachment on your grade that has a Word document that you can open up, and it will show you how to see my comments in Word, in D2L. If you had a lot of grammar errors, you got a point or 2 knocked off. Remember, that's part of the criteria for getting a good grade, is to make sure you write with good grammar. So if you did not, your grade reflects that. So you need to make sure that you read those comments and work on those things. Work on those run-on sentences. Work on those spelling errors. Work on making sure you've got comments in the right places, because that's what's going to help you get a much better grade. So make sure that you do that as well. So with that in mind, I hope that you enjoyed this week's readings. I hope that I've been able to help you with the comments I gave you on your postings. Make better postings so that you can raise those grades. I'd like to give out a whole bunch of 10s in the future, and I can if you read the rubrics and look at the comments I've made on your postings this week.